The COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent shutdowns had a major impact on many parts of our lives. But our children may suffer the consequences for a very long period of time. The repercussions from their schooling interruptions could follow them into adulthood. One of the biggest challenges for educators is catching them up to their appropriate grade level in those places where learning losses occur. And when it comes to reading skills, well, those affect everything else down the line. Studies show that students who can't read at grade level by third grade are 4 times as likely to drop out of high school and have smaller salaries and lower standards of living as adults. But how to catch them up? It takes more than classroom time to make up what they've lost. We discuss learning loss and online tutoring programs designed to bring kids up to speed. Fox 11 News In Depth starts right now. Hello, everyone. I'm Hal Eisner, and this is Fox 11 News In Depth. Recent statistics coming out about one of our local school districts are shocking. Data shows LAUSD students lost roughly 5 years of learning progress during the pandemic. Other school districts show similar losses. We have a teacher and a couple of students from the Pasadena Unified School District joining us to talk about their experiences. So joining us are Amy Manasarian, English language arts teacher at Sierra Madre Middle School, and also middle school students Lila Cabral and Yoran Chang. And I hope I said that right, Loran. Did I get that right? Did I pass?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, good. Well, it's good to have you all here. And the term learning loss has been tossed about a lot over the past few years. What does that mean to you, Amy?
It's been impacted due to the pandemic, going on to remote learning. It was a very difficult situation for students and for teachers. It kind of heightened the learning gap in some areas with certain students. With remote learning, it was difficult being able to connect necessarily to the students via a Zoom call like this or meeting. And so when coming back to the classroom, there was a significant need for interventions, and the students, everyone's level was kind of at a different place. So reevaluating, looking at the standards that we're teaching and trying to see where the learning gap was, if there was a learning gap, how big the learning gap was. So there was a lot of readjustment that needed to take place in the classroom to meet students where they're at so that we can help them to kind of close that gap and allow them to achieve their grade level standards and beyond for them to be successful. So
and let me ask you here. I mean, just so we understand, is there some kind of a bar here? Is it by sort of student testing or aptitude test, and that's how you determine this gap you're talking about?
So it varies. So we brought back state testing. We used to have state testing before the pandemic, and then it was suspended for a while, and then it was back. So we have that data to look at. So the California Smarter Balance testing. So we have that data to look at. We also, in our district, we do iReady reading diagnostics for English and for math to kind of see what their reading level is at and what grade level their Lexile level reading level is. So we had data, and on top of that, just informal data as in a classroom where our standards are when we give our own assessments in a classroom. So we have a couple different pieces of data.
And before I ask the students their thoughts, let me ask you one more thing. How does this affect these students?
Well, it completely affects them because they want to feel successful in a classroom. So the material that we are presenting and what we are doing, we had to shift the way we are teaching what we are doing in order to meet them where their needs are so that they can feel successful. And so having that data was very crucial to see where the students were at, to see how we can better help them achieve their goals and meet their standards.
All right, Lila and Yoram. Ladies before gentlemen. So Lila, do you feel like you lost something during the pandemic?
Yeah, I feel like during the pandemic, I was not really, when I came back to school, I wasn't as knowledgeable as I was before. I had missed some things during 5th grade because I wasn't at school, and it was kind of hard coming back and having to learn things past what we had learned in 5th grade. So it was difficult.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you know, from talking to a lot of kids during the pandemic, it was difficult on a lot of levels, Yoran. I mean, you know, you missed your friends. It's different
Yes,
to
sir.
try to learn something at home from being in a classroom and having a teacher like Amy writing something on the chalkboard. So let me ask you, I mean, you know, what do you feel that you missed? Did you have any problems with distance learning you're at?
Yes, I did have a few problems. Like when I joined a meeting, it was hard to try to get in, and then I'd like I was like so frustrated when I couldn't get in, and then when I got in, I missed like half the class already.
That happens to me on Zoom meetings. Same thing. So you don't have to be little to have that frustration, right? But I think that there are challenges inherent with all of this. I mean, you go to school, you're used to the notion of a teacher in front of you, trying not to be seen so they don't ask you the next question, right? And so Lila, you know, what did you particularly struggle with as you tried to learn in this remote fashion?
Um, some things I like struggled with well on Zoom. Whenever I would try to talk, it was really glitchy. Um, so the teacher couldn't hear me when I asked questions. So I would have to write it in the chat. And also, sometimes when the teacher was explaining, it would glitch and I couldn't hear what she was saying or see what she was explaining because it was all pixelated.
Well, you're not alone. I mean, you know, when we first started with the pandemic, we started reporting on the news here using Zoom and Skype and different things like that. And you know that character from the movie Scream that goes like, that one? That's what I looked at a couple of times when the thing froze up on me. So you're not alone, believe me. It happened to all of us. But I do have to ask you, I mean, I'd like to ask all three of you, do you feel now after, you know, doing Zoom for a couple of years and remote learning, do you feel that that's added to our toolbox of educational possibility? I see heads nodding. Amy, why don't you start?
Yes, I think one of the things, the biggest lessons I've learned that I also try to instill in our students is we can't predict what life kind of throws at us. So we have to be prepared and not be scared to try new things. I mean, to be a remote teacher was something no one had expected, no one ever thought of. To adapt how we teach, what we teach in this kind of setting to connect to the students. One of the biggest pieces that I love as a teacher is to connect to the students and to be engaged and to see each other and to have that disconnect, like Lila was talking about, the pixelation, the not being able to connect, that kind of takes away from the bonding in a classroom. So I think it was something that we had to adapt to learn. I completely learned how to teach in a different manner. We learned a lot of different tech skills and how to use Zoom or a WebEx or whatever the means were. We learned how to create courses online using our Canvas courses and how to create assignments, how to record ourselves doing lessons, putting in videos. So I think it added to our tool belt. And although it was such a
Yeah.
tragic time, it really gave us skills I think that are going to be so useful now and in the future. I think especially for students because they're so quick to learn as well. So
Yeah.
I think being able to adapt to an environment and a situation like that, I think it only is going to be something amazing that they can add on and use in the future.
Right, and you know, we're all going to come back here in the third segment, Lila and Uran. So hang on to your thoughts. In our next segment of Fox 11 News in Depth, we delve into what could be help for kids who are struggling. We're going to talk to the founder of a tutoring software company whose platform may help to level the playing field for students who might not normally be able to afford private tutoring. And it's spreading across the U.S. We'll be right back. Don't go away. So let's take a look at what can be done to help the problem of learning loss or just help those kids who are struggling with a particular subject. Our next guest is the founder of the tutoring platform Paper. Let's bring him in. Joining us now, Phil Cutler, CEO and founder of Paper. Welcome, Phil. First of all, tell us a little bit about Paper and this sort of software that's a not in-person tutoring application.
Absolutely. Well, Hal, thanks for having me on here. Happy to sort of give some background on Paper and the impact that we can have. Ultimately, Paper really started as a result of my own experience, having been a classroom teacher and seeing students going out, trying to get extra support, but not necessarily being able to afford it or have the resources to get the support that that they need. Meanwhile, families were able to pay for extra help. But those were sort of the 10 to 20% of families that could afford it. The other 80 to 90% just didn't have the resources to get that help. And so I saw that as an opportunity to try to close those educational equity gaps. And so I left teaching and started the business really with that North Star of giving every student the access to the support that they need, that they deserve in order to reach their potential.
I'm just curious, what was your teaching background? Elementary school, middle school, what were you doing?
So I was teaching sixth grade at the time, and I didn't teach for particularly long. It didn't take a lot to recognize the fact that this was happening pretty much everywhere, not just in my class, but other classes elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure it didn't. Your company calls this high dosage tutoring. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
So the way that we like to think of this is that every student's requirements are going to be different. And students are going to need to get help, especially now, post-pandemic, when students have been learning online for several years. They've changed the expectations of when they can learn and what that looks and feels like. And so with paper, the students are able to come on and get academic support 24/7 whenever they need for as long as they need. And it's really a solution that's designed for the modern day student, a student who really is accustomed to getting what they want and what they need on demand.
And tell us what we're looking at on the screen here. Is that your website?
So that's what the student experience would look like. So students, when they log into paper, they'll actually see their classes. And what will happen is we'll take the rostering. So they'll see Mr. Cutler's math class, for example. And then if they click on that, they'll be brought directly into a live tutoring session. It's chat-based. There's also voice messaging as well. So you can kind of go back and forth like you're using iMessage. It's quite straightforward and intuitive. But the idea here is that students are able to get support literally anytime that they need at a click of a button.
It's interesting that you make it a point to show student privacy there. That's pretty important, isn't it? And it's also not just reading and math, it's a whole lot of subjects.
We cover everything. And so there's a number of different, within our paper platform, there's a number of different functionalities that students get access to. Of course, they can use the live help, which we're well known for. There's a review center, Hal, like you mentioned, so students can upload written work, and that written work is then annotated for the student and the teacher to both see. Everything that's happening on the platform is transparent back to the classroom teacher. So it really helps the teacher. It takes a little bit of the burden off of them. You know, if they're getting requests at 10 p.m. at night from students, which is not an uncommon thing these days. Now that the teachers know the students are going to have support, so they don't have to feel compelled to be available around the clock. We also have something called Paper Live, which is a live streaming service that has sort of educational shows available for students. We have a math missions component. So it's sort of like math problem solving, a little bit like Wordle, but for math. And so all of this is encompassed in Paper's platform that students are using.
I'm curious because I know that this is now being distributed in a number of different districts in our area. Can you give us an idea of what those districts are? And the other thing, students and parents don't pay for this thing, right? So how do they get it?
That's right. So our partnership is always with the school district directly. So we work with LA Unified, which, you know, probably a lot of those tuning in have students or know students that are registered there. We've got about 50 districts in Southern California, Pasadena. We go all the way down Orange County, Riverside County. So there's sort of students sprinkled throughout the entire Southern California area. But obviously LA is sort of one of the largest in the country, and our presence there is something that we're really proud of.
You know, the idea that the district pays for this and not the parent or the student, it evens the playing field and makes it more of an equitable alternative for those who might not be able to afford something like this, right?
That's right. And look, it's not necessarily there to replace every other option that exists. It's there to support everything that's happening in our schools. And so families will still be able to go out if they do want to pay for private tutoring, they'll be able to do that. But this is a solution that the district is providing and that they know every student will be supported with. And so what we really are proud of is the fact that this is something that's highly scalable, that can be rolled out to hundreds of thousands, in our case, well over 3 million students nationally. that every single one of those kids, if they're stuck on homework, if they have a question, if they're, they're not sure what the next step is in solving something, there's always somebody there to support them. And
what's a website that people can get? And we're going to have to wrap up the segment, but why don't you give your website?
So students can go to paper.co. They also will have access through the typical single sign-on that their school district has, whether that's Clever, ClassLink, something else.
All right. Phil Cutler, thank you so much. It sort of reminds me of sort of taking the guy at the coffee shop who's tutoring after school to another level. And that's what this sort of sounds like. Phil, thanks so much. So coming up next on Fox 11 News in Depth, how does paper perform? We're going to bring back our students and teacher to talk about the tutoring platform and how it performs in real life. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Fox 11 News in Depth. I'm Hal Eisner. We're talking about learning loss and tutoring. Let's bring back English language arts teacher Amy Manasarian. You've used this paper tutoring platform at Sierra Madre Middle School, right?
Yes, correct.
And what's your impression of it?
I absolutely love it. I used it early on when they first introduced it to us during remote learning, and I currently use it up to the state in all of my classes. I encourage the students to use it outside of class, but I think one of the greatest tools for teachers is to also be able to use it during class as well. So it's a great tool for students and teachers.
How does that integrate with the classroom learning?
So part of the way I use it for my English class is when we write essays. Part of the essay writing process is when we have our workshop week, when they do their drafts, one of the requirements that I do in the class is to have the students submit it to paper tutoring. So the students learn how to download their writing as a PDF, submit it to paper tutoring. They upload my rubric, my directions for the essay or the prompt that they are writing, and then a tutor reads and helps them with and makes suggestions for their essay. So I think it's a great layer of assistance and help. So students, for example, even if their essay is not done, one of the things that they do is they reach out to the tutors and they ask for help with an introduction, or they say, this is the prompt, I don't know how to address it, I don't know how to answer it, or how do I cite evidence for this? So it's an interactive tool while they're in the class. So that way, me as a teacher, as I'm going around helping other students and rotating, they learn to self-advocate, to ask questions. And once the paper tutors have given feedback for their essays, they give it back to they return it to the students. So the students then go through the process of reading through it and editing for their final draft. So it's this ongoing process.
Let me ask you, Ann, I mean, tell me about your experiences with this program.
Paper tutoring is an awesome place. Like my English teacher said, I do use it for essays and many other things too, like math. Yeah, sometimes during math when I have a problem I don't know and I'm at home and my parents can't really help me out because they don't have time. So I would just go on to paper tutoring and it really helps me out.
Lila, what about you? What have you used it for?
I mostly use it for my writing, like in English and in science. And I really enjoy using it because not only does it tell me what I need work on, it also tells me what I did good and how I can make it even better.
Ann, do you use it all the time or use it occasionally?
I use it all the time.
All the time. So it's just, and you're comfortable with it.
Yes,
it's not something that's difficult. So Lila, what's the best thing about it to you?
The best thing about it to me is how easy it is. Like I could just take a screenshot of the prompt I need for English, upload it and upload my work. And also it's super fast, like in like a day or two, boom, I get my answer. And yeah, or it's even shorter, just usually when I do it. It's longer essays, so it takes longer.
Takes longer. Ann, was it hard to learn? I mean, is it hard to use?
No, it's super easy. Like I just submit my essay and then it's usually 24 hours later and it's boom, back to me.
What about you, Lila? Was it a piece of cake?
Yeah, it's super easy.
You think an old crusty newsman like me could figure out how to use this thing?
Definitely.
Definitely. Amy, what do you think about this? I mean, looking at what's on the screen, it seems fairly intuitive.
Yes, and it's a great tool. It is intuitive. It takes you step by step. As a class, I show it to the students how to do it. They learn. They're great with each other as well. They pick up on technology really quickly. And so it's just a great tool to have. I think the kids navigate towards it because they learn so much. And just like we were talking about earlier, it's just another skill to add to their tool belt. And what a great way to teach them to self-advocate, to learn on their own when maybe someone isn't available to help them. And that shouldn't be a reason why it stops them from learning or from progressing. So I think it's a great tool.
Lila, do you think you'll continue to use it as you progress through school?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
And Yoran, do you think when you get up to high school, which really won't be that long from now, do you think you'll be using it then?
Definitely, yeah.
So this sounds to me like something that these two kids like. What about the rest of the kids in the classroom? I mean, do you get this kind of unanimity of agreement here?
Yes. So I have seen such great results in their writing and their improvement. I think they're learning how to do the writing process. They're learning, with everything being so quick nowadays, they're learning that it's a great process, that writing takes time. And when someone kind of guides them through it, it really makes a great improvement for them. So one of the things that I did is, because I made it more of a class culture and a requirement in the class to submit their essays for paper tutoring, I'm seeing more of the students use it now outside of it, because now they're comfortable, because they have to use it during class. So I've seen more participation within the students outside of class, kind of like there's a more buy-in because everyone does it in the class and they see the benefit of it. They learn how to read feedback. And like Lila was saying, they also provide fabulous, like positive feedback. So it's not like for the students, oh, here's what you did wrong, fix it. It's a very guided practice where I love the way you did your introduction. Your vocabulary choice is excellent. Here's what we would work on. And so it's very guided, it's very structured, and it's very positive. And I think because it is such a positive feedback and there's such a short span when they get the feedback back in return, there's more buy-in with the kids. And I think because they are seeing much improvement in their skills and their writing by using paper tutoring, I think they're more excited to continue to use it.
I always say I learn something new every day. So thanks for taking care of this day for me. I've learned quite a bit this half hour. Thanks, Amy and Lila and Yoran. And we'll be back with more Fox 11 News in depth right after this. And finally, if you haven't already, please check out my podcast. It's called What the Hell, and it's available wherever you subscribe to podcasts, or just go to whatthehellpodcast.com. That's it for this week's Fox 11 News in Depth. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.